All right, let's go. So day number 44 of running paid ads. As you can see, yesterday almost no views actually. Free views, free likes. At least we have an engaged audience here. So with all of that being said, today I want to talk about introverted selling. And that's because I am mostly an introvert, so I think I can speak to this subject with more experience than people who might not be as introverted. And that's also because for some people it is easier to do a few tasks, right? For example, if you are more introverted, you are more likely to be good at data analysis or at maybe media buying, because it matters a lot how much you stay in front of your computer, right? There are things that are components of being successful in any area, correct? If you think of selling, is it likely that an extrovert will sell better than an introvert, at least in the long term, if you think of 1,000 calls, right? Because if you think about it, anyone can be good at something for a short period of time, right? For example, whenever you start something new, even when I started here on YouTube filming, right? It was so easy in the beginning. All the enthusiasm in the world, more views than usual because everyone likes to see what you're up to in the beginning. And then, of course, things start to plateau, correct? It's just like with anything. You start lifting weights, your body feels that stress for the first time, and it has to grow. And it's the first experience, so there's automatic growth there. However, after that you don't see as much progress, and I think this also has to do with the Dunning-Kruger effect, if I remember the name correctly. That's when you feel like you might know everything about something because you get that spike in learning, meaning that, for example, if you learn the first 30 letters in an alphabet, right? You have the impression that you can basically create any word because you pretty much know every letter in the alphabet, correct? But then you see that there are so many complexities in there. Then you find out that in some cultures you actually have to greet someone based on their age, which I don't like in the late Latin world, let's say, like in Spain, I think so. You also have it, at least here in Romania, you have it. I think in many countries in Asia. So there is a lot of complexity. You don't just say you, which is much easier. And the thing is that even with selling, there are multiple ways to look at it. You can think of the sleazy car salesman, which I think everyone thinks of when they hear sales, just because this is the connotation that we have about some things, right? It's just like if I say porn star, you won't really think of someone who is, let's say, a founder, right? However, if you use the word founder, you think of someone that's more in the realm of maybe Mark Zuckerberg, maybe Jeff Bezos, even if basically you're just a founder that's like a freelancer. So it's all about perception sometimes. And even when it comes to selling, there are multiple ways to sell. Sometimes you sell just by sending a Google Doc. That's something that's popular nowadays. And I think almost everyone loves that because it's inbound. So someone comes to you, they are already interested, you just send the offer in a Google Doc, and that's it. The money is wired. Then you have what is most likely happening in most cases, actually having calls. Because we are talking here about the B2B world, so not about you buying Coke, because the CEO doesn't need to come and convince you, although they do marketing. So the marketing is doing the selling for them. And it's the same here. If you have some marketing, that does help, but still in most cases you do need some selling abilities or techniques. For example, in the case of an extrovert, they actually get energy from talking to people. So if they have a full day of calls, and especially if they like what they're doing, their selling job, then it won't be as draining for them. However, for someone who is more introverted, who actually gets energy from staying inside alone, then it would be very draining to have 8 hours of calls 5 days a week. And over time, you can get better at that for sure. But still, if you are more introverted, right, it's very hard to have it 50-50 perfectly, because think like it, you can't like broccoli and anything else, let's think of cabbage, the same at the same time, because otherwise you wouldn't be eating one more than the other. So basically, there is one thing that you are better at or that you enjoy more, and basically just look at what you're doing and you can find out or reflect, and you can see where are you feeling better usually, where are you spending more of your time, because if you're spending more of your time alone, it's clear that you are more introverted. And yeah, you can also talk with other people, get out of the house and so on, but still it's about percentages, because we're all on a spectrum here, meaning that you're not 100% extroverted, 100% introverted. And for example, even for myself, I think that I'm probably between 60 to 80% introverted, more so I would say 70 to 90 to be fair here, and the rest around 30 to 10%, depending on the period, is extroverted, meaning that I do need to talk with people, I do need to get that energy from them, but then need to go back to the cave and just do the work. So just like Batman, right? And that's why it's really important to know also our style, because when you're extroverted, yeah, you can try to be more extroverted and try to be curious and so on, because you might actually be curious, but there is a limit, because in most cases you can't just go talking for like 2 hours and then expect to actually sell if that's the goal, right? Because in most cases you actually need to keep things short, to the point, and just as long as they need to be. And that's why sometimes the sales calls, not the discovery calls, because there are different calls, but a sales calls, a proposal call shouldn't be more than 30 to maybe 90 minutes max, right? And that's for higher ticket, 3K plus, I would say. And this is where you need to know your style. For example, are you more so diagnosing business? Because if you're curious, I would say that's one of the better ways to actually sell, by actually asking questions, but keeping in mind that in order to ask questions, you do need to come from the beginning, because we still judge a book by its cover. So from the beginning, you still need to have that status, or let's call them aura points, not being lost, right? So you do need to have a higher status from the beginning, and you do this by just being clear that you've pretty much done this, and of course you don't say that, meaning that one way to actually build some status from the beginning is showing that you're an expert and showing that you already have an agenda for this call. So you can even mention from the beginning, and this is not the perfect delivery here because I'm not the best at sales, but just being clear that, hey, I'm Felix, I'm the founder of this agency, and on this call I just want to learn as much about your business as possible so I can make sure that I can at the end give you the best packages that we have here at the agency. Depends how professional you want to sound, but yeah, that's one way to just make it clear that you are leading this call and that you will be asking the questions. And actually most people do enjoy that. Like even myself, I do enjoy when someone can lead a call, but at the same time, you should have the skill of being able to lead a call. So let's not forget, with all of that being said, that what we're doing in this series is still running paid ads. So this is more so what happens after you get a lead, and then you might actually need to hop on a call with them and try to see what their issue is, the problem in their business, and then of course sell and offer your service, your product if you have something like that. So with that being said, let's switch to the laptop and let's look at the ad account and what has happened recently. All right, so now that we're in the ad account, so let me show you the numbers from yesterday. We have them here in the metrics log, and let me zoom in here so you can see. So fortunately, lower CPMs right now and only around $17 spent. So not really much because I'm not as confident in these ads, and basically on, I would say maybe the pixel targeting the right people right now, it's still targeting a lot of beginners. And although I do think there is an opportunity here to do some consulting and so on, I would rather focus on the higher leverage clients, activities, which does mean higher retainers. So with that being said, let's look here at what's happening today. So right now, if we look at the ad account, it has already spent around $14. So it will spend probably the entire $20 amount that we have here for the day. And let's see how many impressions we have. So around 575, 24 CPM and 4 clicks. So not a lot. 3 clicks for the IGDM combos, which although there have been a few, unfortunately they aren't as qualified. So I think this is where it really helps when you have some content out there, because it does explain better what you're doing, who you are, who you're working with, who you're not working with. So this is something that will take time for sure for me to also create more content and just make it more clear who is the best fit or who is not the best fit to work with. So that's pretty much it in terms of the updates. As you can see, slow and steady progress, getting some data and more views, because visibility is always important, but we also need to make sure it's the right visibility. So let's switch the camera again. All right, so for the parting words here, not much to say because it was already a full 10-minute monologue here on selling, and the fact that selling is definitely one of the most important skills, but you also need to look at the small details, because you can have a framework, but even with that framework, we all have different styles of communicating. But personally, I do use a framework right now because I've been in a group, in a community recently, agency domain, and it was worth the entire 1K per year, which is very cheap actually for a community where you have amazing people. And shout out to Curtis, who is the one who was leading the sales calls. I think he still is. Haven't joined the one from last week. Unfortunately, didn't see it in the calendar, so missed it. But having a framework is so useful, because right now, whenever I jump on a sales call, I know the structure, but of course, there will be some variability depending on the business, meaning that sometimes I might ask about the AOV, the ROAS, how much they're spending and so on, but sometimes maybe there are other issues that need to be analyzed, such as, do you have a team? Do you have a creative team? If not, maybe that's what you need, and at that point you just need to get access to their accounts, which would be more helpful than asking for the AOV and other things that are not as easy to remember, right? We are not meant to just keep in our mind everything, all the metrics. That's why we have data. That's why we have all the sheets here, just like you've seen. So I don't want to make this way too long, but it was more so about being aware that we all sell in different ways, but we can still have a structure, but it's also about the tonality and how we speak. Because if we are calm, and that's why it's usually easier over time, because when you are on your 1000 sales call, of course, it's something that you've been through so many times that it doesn't even feel that hard. So that's where confidence comes from the fact that you are actually competent, because you have done it so many times. So that's why repetition is still one of the best ways to get good at anything. But of course, it should be repetition, doing the right things. So with that being said, let's end it for today, and wishing you all the best. If you haven't left a like, comment, you can do so. And until next time, peace out.